Anybody out there? Let me know you can hear me, please. Now, I know you couldn't hear me because I didn't have the mic on. So I was just saying that I like my new headset. It's a Turtle Beach and it sounds really good. So it does help to put the mic on, doesn't it? So we're streaming this on YouTube. So why don't we get started? Let's get cracking here. Release the Kraken. Welcome everybody to the Pro Trade Room Plus and the 7-year auction. My name is Lee Goldstein. I'm the trading director for 10-minute trades. Please remember that all the trades we discuss are for educational purposes. Possible to lose money trading in the future. Please trade carefully. And let's get started. We're back in the trade room this section, the 7-year auction. And I do think that we have today is a rollover volume issue day. I mean, it's something that we're just going to have to deal with. I did get a notice that bonds were rolling over this morning. So let's take a quick look. ZB is the instrument of choice on this event. And people always ask, especially when they're new, well, why do you trade the 30-year? Why don't you trade a lower value bond or note when it's a lower value auction? And it's really just about the testing and what has worked over the years. The 30-year seems to get the best reaction, and it has an issue, and it's had an issue over the years also, in that sometimes liquidity is a pain. Sometimes you'll get a great move, and even with the amount of significant volume that you see on the 30-year bonds, there can still be liquidity issues where there's just not enough orders at times, and you'll get filled at the bottom or the top of a candle, and it ruins what looked like to the naked eye a great move. And it brings up an interesting point, because if you look at today's DMM, and this is something most people would not know, you'd have no way of knowing this because you're not as tuned in to things as I am. And I'm not saying that as a negative or a positive. It is what it is. I'm super tuned in to the individual reports and what happened last month, in particular, because every week Chantal and I are testing and we're going over what happened last month, the month before that. So I'm more tuned in than the average trader, even the involved trader that's trading our system. You might not have noticed that last month On the Australian, let me get the right report up. On the Australia CPI, it's a stop. And depending on whether you were in the room, the trade room or not, and whether you might have been doing analysis, it was such a difficult move to determine what really happened that you had to be trading live to know what really happened. Because to the naked eye and to normal analysis, you can't always judge slippage or liquidity. You can sometimes see that there's a problem, but you can't always determine where the fill might have been. And in particular, that's why I was saying that this Australian report, the reason we don't have a trade room is because we cannot determine what's safe on this particular event. A lot of winners are not actually, a lot of trades that appear to be winners in analysis, and the DMM is usually based on analysis until it gets corrected. Sometimes the analysis shows what could look like a winner, but in reality, there was a liquidity issue. So sometimes the DMM is every now and then you've got to be especially careful. And we know that it's Australia and Canada are the two particular countries whose currency can have liquidity issues. So it's just something to be aware of. Sometimes you have to also try to read a little bit more deeply into the report. If it says something like a large spike in 17 seconds and then a reversal in 2 seconds, that might give you a hint that maybe there could have been a very fast spike and a very fast reversal. That can sometimes lead to liquidity issues. In this particular case, I know that last month on Australia was a stop because we traded it and we all got stopped. Some of the Australia reports have been tough because of liquidity. So it's just something to keep in mind. Sometimes a report can look good, but you've got to try to read a little bit more deeply into the behavior, and preferably come into the trade room so you know 1,000,000,000% what really happened, because sometimes you have to be trading live to know 100% what happened. And it's not because we're stupid. It's not because we're trying to make reports look better than they are. It's because that's the way it is. And once you understand that, it makes all of this much more manageable and easy to deal with. One of the first things you have to get over when you're dealing with people in the trading business, and sometimes it's really hard to assume you're not being hoodwinked, because so many traders, so many of the mentors out there, so many of the rooms are fraudulent. And how many times have you been, not told the truth? I mean, all I hear from people is how much money they've lost, following systems that are ridiculous, and that, they can't follow the trades. You all know what I'm talking about. Well, we don't do that here because we can't. You're watching us. You can't fake a winning trade. You can't fake a losing trade. So Mauricio, ZB, just the moves are better. ZN can be used. You can use ZN if you want to, with the same setup. You can use ZN. But we just find that, and ZN has better liquidity. And if you want to take less risk, you can use ZN because it's half the tick value. But we do not recommend ZF. But we've used ZN as well. All right, let's get into the event. So look, this event is considering how poorly all the bond reports have been trading, this one has been holding its own somewhat. It's a 50-50 roughly. My plan is to just trade the DMM on this. If it hadn't been a winner last month, I probably wouldn't be trading it today, because then it would be possibly 4 out of 6 losers. We all know that the bond reports, they've been brutal, but we know also, like I was saying this morning, they're definitely behaving better. That doesn't mean today's going to be a winner. We could go right back into misery. So these are not family money trades. They're not great profit centers these days, but they're starting to behave better. And when they're working great, they're very nice to trade. So I'm going to trade the DMM as is. Targets of 2 and 6, stop of 3. It's not a huge risk report. 3 ticks. It's a small bracket. We're not expecting big moves. You could see that the winners were not that big. Last month was big, 14 ticks. That was good. That was a good move. I'll show you some videos. I'm going to set the trade up first. So it's a breakout trade. 13:01:30 is the time that we activate. Everyone asks, especially the new people, why the bond auction's at 1 o'clock? Why are you putting on your orders not until a minute and a half after? Again, everything we do is about the testing. If the market moved at 1 o'clock, we'd be putting our orders on at 1 o'clock. The market doesn't move, usually for a whole minute and a half until after the auction. That's just the way it works. And all these years, I don't think we've ever missed a trade by being too late at 13:01:30. There was a time when we were putting our orders on 13:01:45 and we missed a few. And then we went back to 13:01:30. So 13:01:30 on the activation, Eastern time, of course, because that's where we are. Use your local time for your trigger time. If you're in Central Time, you use your Central Time to trigger. You don't use my time, right? You use your time. Otherwise it won't trigger at the right time. And I'm going to check account warnings are off, enabled. I'm always going to label the trade ZB. And Langford, are you here by any chance? Going to label the trade ZB. And I'm going to check my bracket width by putting the time at 0. Hey, Langford, last month, gold was the one that moved great, wasn't it? Remember I think you were doing an alternative gold trade. If my memory serves, yeah, okay. I don't remember. I'm trying to think. What size bracket did you use? Do you remember? 6, 7-ish? I'll take a look and see how busy gold is. The reason I'm asking Langford is, Langford's been here for a long time. He's done a lot of interesting work on the bond auctions. He's looked at the YM. We used to try to see if, the bond auctions have gone through some lean times. So when a report goes through lean times, we're always looking for alternatives. And gold, sometimes the problem has been there hasn't been a consistent alternative. That's the word. Just checking my brackets while I'm talking. That's the key word. One of the most important words in our trading, consistency. We need consistent results so that we could create a consistent setup. So we want a consistent type of move. Now, look, consistent doesn't mean every single time. It's not going to happen every single time, but consistency might mean 7 times out of 10, 6 times out of 10. Okay, 50-50 is not, to me, consistent. 50-50 is a coin toss. Okay. So consistency is more than 50-50 in my mind. And of course, there's levels of consistency. You know, a family money trade is a higher level of better consistency, right? Anyway, so I've got a ZB trade set up. So that trade is ready to go. And yeah, I wasn't so much interested in the YM as I was interested in watching gold. Because I thought, if I remembered, Langford, you had a real interesting move. I don't even remember which report it was. It might have been the 30 or the 20. And gold had a great move. I'd have to go through all our videos. It doesn't matter because I'm not trading it live, but what I'm going to do is put gold. 224 is the current instrument now. And let's watch it. See what kind of move there is on gold. Because what happens is, so let's say you're a member. Let's say, you know, you've been trading with us and you discovered something and you tell us, hey, you know, I've been trading the 7-year bond auction with the euro and hey, it looks really good. So, you know, if we think that you're a reasonably normal person, you're not crazy, making stuff up to waste our time, then we'll test it. And if it's good, we'll come up with a setup. So, you know, if you want to share, sharing is critical to this. This was last month. Now, wait a minute. I do not recall trading this live last month, but we were. Let's see what happens here. See, I think this was a stop. I think this was a stop. Let's see. So 1302, no fill. 1302 in 7 seconds, we got a fill. No, it was a winner. Hits the first target. I was only trading one contract. That's what it was. That's what it was. And then I think it continues up, if my memory serves me well. But you could see it, even with a winner, it was slow. It was not a big mover. But it starts to try to push, and then it pushes a little more, and then it has a pretty good solid move. So it was good. It was good. So I like to use the indicator net change display, which is free and part of Ninja. And I like to put the unit on ticks, especially on ZB. Apply it and okay it, because then I can see on the bottom right where it notates how many ticks the bond market has moved since 6 p.m. last night. If you really want to see what the market looks like, uncheck your trade. Don't change charts with a trade enabled. Do not ever change charts with a trade enabled. But if I put my bond chart on 30 minutes, I can get a volatility look from yesterday to where we are now. And actually, if you look at a little bit further back, yesterday looks like it was pretty bullish. It was quite a bullish bond day yesterday. Starting in the 3 in the morning, looks like. or 5:30 in the morning, really. Today is quieter. And I would say right at this moment, other than this recent candle here, the price has been bullish in the morning since the morning, since I'd say it made the low. Looks like about at the open, it looks like possibly. Anyway, just not going to really affect what I do on this trade. Just curious to see what's going on. Now I have to redo my brackets, right? Always check your brackets on a sim so you don't accidentally trigger a trade for yourself. Whoops. You don't want to check your brackets by triggering them on a live chart with the market on live money. So I'll put everything back on sim to retest my brackets, particularly on this trade, which is small brackets. I don't want to be scrunched like that when I have to trade. You can't trade like that. That's why I do what I do with the brackets, right? You can't trade when it's so narrow. So let's look at a couple more videos. Just make sure everything's reset up. 1301.30. Bracket of 3, targets of 2 and 6, stop of 3. Nothing else, not doing anything else, no automation, nothing special. Putting myself back on live, putting my charts back on live, enabling the trade, bringing my clock back, okay? And let's make sure that we're in sync by going to the website. Time is, right? And when I go there, my time is in sync. And now let's take a look. So what happened in September? We looked at October. October had a nice move. September. So if you look at the DMM in September, this particular report has been a 50-50 for a while. So it in general has been performing better than the 30 and the 20. Okay, our orders go on at 1301.30. And then we wait for the reaction to the auction. And you could see it's like a jolt. But a very quick change in direction. Not the kind of trade, not the kind of move that reflects a winning trade. Goes one direction, then immediately changes direction. That's generally not a good thing. And this was not a winning trade. It was a losing trade. And then we had, let's look at August, sorry. All right, so 15 seconds into, there's a 17-second, looked like about a 19-second fill, hits the first target roughly. So it would be nice if they keep that truce going and keep releasing hostages in the Middle East. That would be nice. So that trade had a decent move, but you could see what I mean when I say these are not giant movers right now. The interesting thing about the bond auctions, let's look at one more. Let's go back to May. Go back to May. This is a very popular behavior of a trade that didn't work. It's called a nick fill and a reversal. And it's a common failure of a trade that doesn't work. It's a common behavior that we see. And any event can have what we call a nick fill. So what does it mean? It means it just barely nicks the bracket, fills, and then changes direction. So I don't remember which direction this goes. We'll see. So what's going to happen? It's going to do a little jolt, fill, and change direction. See how quick, and sometimes it happens so fast, you don't see it with the naked eye. In other words, that happened so fast, you didn't even see the move. All you know is you look up and you're in the event. You're in a trade. And it nicked your, and it's going against you. All of a sudden you look up and you go, holy crow, wait a minute. What happened here? So that was pretty small move, but you know, it was enough that it filled you in the wrong direction and then changed. So look, we don't know what's going to happen, but the bond reports have been doing better. So I'm willing to take our risk on it. Remember, you only have to trade the best of the best reports. Right now, these are not the best of the best. And if we're going through, we went through a really, really good trading period from June to about 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, definitely things got tougher. I would not say disastrously tougher, but tougher. I'm definitely more willing to trade 50-50s when everything's working. You know what I mean? When things are tougher, you're better off trading as little as possible. The only way, I think the only way to succeed in any trading system is to trade as little as possible. One of the things people do is trade too often, all the time, no matter what they're doing. And I'm always concerned about Fed speakers. Right now, you know, the Fed they've been speaking all day, so I think that there's somewhat of a little bit less influence on the market from that. Aldo, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Aldo. Aldo. And he's right now, I don't see him speaking at this exact moment. He's scheduled to speak. But you always want to be aware, you know, and also if it's Powell, then I'm definitely more concerned. So it also depends who it is. I mean, the honest truth is you can scare yourself out of every single trade if you want to. Most of the time, you have to just bite the bullet. Trust the system, right? Trust the trades. Because they tend to work over and over and over. And this is a little difficult today too, because volume is a little bit higher on 1223, but we're rolled over to 324. There's significant volume on both instruments. Right. And I'm not even right now, although I'm not even hearing that he's speaking. We'll be out of the trade well before 5 minutes after. So, because what we'll see is we will see a move almost definitely within 40 seconds usually. Now, this particular event has a cancellation rule, and the cancellation rule is 60 seconds. So 13:02:30. If we don't have a fill, I'll seriously think of canceling. Now, my rules about canceling, or especially a report like this, where this is a report that doesn't adhere to an exact second of release. I mean, we know what time the auction is, but the reaction is a little bit strange. But we do have a 60-second cancel. I never program it into the software as an auto cancel because I like to be listening to the news in case something happens. Maybe the news is delayed and I want to keep the trade on. So any canceling I do is manual, and you can just uncheck the enabled box anytime you want to cancel. You can hit the close button in Chart Trader, and you can click an X on your order to cancel. All right. So, and look, I am listening to a Squawk Box, and they are saying that Barr will be speaking soon, but he's not talking yet. So I don't think he'll be speaking till we're done. But you do want to make the calendars your friend. You want to keep an eye on the calendars all day long while you're trading, and certainly before your news trade, any news trade. It's one of the reasons why I love integrating the charts into our trading. And I always have Financial Juice Pro open because I'm listening to the Squawk Box. Obviously, so the point is you want to trade with as many tools as possible that help. So there's our orders. Now I'm keeping an eye on the adjust button, also the bond auctions, because we don't know when the trade is actually going to trigger. Our arrow represents the current price, so our brackets are maintained at 3. The adjust button recenters the bracket. If you think there's time and the news is late, you can use the adjust button. To recenter the brackets if you feel like you're going to get. Okay, so that is a nick fill. Maybe, maybe not. We should get, I'd love to see our, that was quite a bit of slippage. Okay, I'm going to move my stop to break even plus a tick. Okay. So it stopped me out, but I made 3 ticks, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. That was a very typical, a most typical bond auction of late. So that was a $93 winner. Look, any winner over $50, as far as I'm concerned, is worth getting up for. Trade management is the determining factor in what happens on this particular event. This trade is not over for everyone. If you did not move your stop, my fill was 02. It hasn't hit my stop yet. Okay, I'm at break even if I've not protected my stop. Sorry, if I didn't protect my target. I protected my profit, okay, by being relatively aggressive with my stop. And we'll watch the video because I'll explain that. It might bite me in the butt because if the price should continue down, 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 for instance, to the new low, then I want to jump off a building, right? It doesn't appear that's going to be the case, but I'm not sure about that yet. Trade management is one of the most complex issues that anybody deals with in any trading system. And it's very complicated in news trading, complicated in the sense that we just don't always know what's the best management technique. I was taught always to protect your profit if your first target gets hit. That's what I was taught years and years ago. There's plenty of times though where that, you leave money on the table because of it. Now, I don't need my trade enabled, okay? In fact, I want it off because I'm out of the trade. Now, gold did virtually nothing, okay? Now, it might be that YM is starting to move a little bit again, as Langford is saying on these reports. I was never, honestly, Langford, I was never much of a lover on these. Now, what Chantal is saying is we don't normally look at the indexes. Now, the YM, the ES had a nice move too. You can't deny that these bond events are very important, even though they're not moving bonds as much as we would like to see them move the bonds. Okay. Now you'd definitively be stopped out of the bond trade now. But see what I mean? If you didn't protect your profit, then you would be out with a loss. Okay. Because you would have maybe made 2 ticks and you would have lost 6. Trade management. Trade management. It's not that it's complicated, it's that you just have to make decisions that radically affect what's going to happen. And the more you practice, the more you do it, the better those decisions can be. And sometimes, depending on the report, it might help you decide if you want to stay in or get out because maybe a report reverses way more than another one does. This was pretty common bond report behavior. I've never traded those micros. I really wonder about the volume and liquidity on them, Sam. I don't even know what that symbol is. Is it 10Y23? It's 10Y. No. The bond auctions are monthly, Adam. They're monthly. Okay, so with Ninja, it's 10Y. See, there's no volume on this instrument. I would not trade this, Sam. I wouldn't trade it. There's no volume. There's no orders. Look at the chart. That's not a tradable chart. So you want to be real careful if you trade that. And it's interesting. Why is it 1123? Why is it such an old contract? Let's look at 12. That doesn't look good. So they, I'm absolutely not familiar with this instrument at all. So Chantal, what's the current contract? Is it monthly? They give them to you. You can enter them monthly. But that's interesting. 10-year. 1223 doesn't have very good volume either. And then it won't let me use 24, which is interesting. Oh no, it will, but there's no volume, or maybe I don't know. Both 11 and 12. 11, it comes up. You know how Ninja Trader, if you just type in the prefix 10, it tells me that the current contract will be what I double click this to be. It says 11 is the current contract. You know, going by the rule that we used for finding the current contract if we know the prefix. But I think, I mean, when I've looked these up a while ago, none of the bond micros appeared to have tradable volume. That's the issue. I kind of like the fact that the ZB, with 3 measly ticks, you can make almost $100. I don't mind the risk. I don't mind the risk on it. Now, today was a little bit tricky because there was mixed volume again between 12 and 324. ZB 0324 is the correct contract. That was the rollover contract that Ninja sent the email out this morning. But hey, look, regardless, it's not a big mover, but not being afraid, you know, gave us $100, almost $100. I think it's proving that our theory, the bond reports are behaving better. So I would definitely trade them. I'll start trading all of them now. You know, not with big risk, but normally. I think they're tradable. They're not showing and stop outs like they had been. So it's worth taking the risk. Hey, look, if you catch them on the upslope, that's good. And it's long time. It's really due. We're due for some good bond reports. And that's why on the bond reports, we don't give up on them 100%. They could go through months. They've gone through months of bad behavior. We know that they'll probably come back. So we don't give up on them 100%. And now we're starting to make money on them again. So, you know, you could put an extra contract on target 1 if you want. There's things you can do. And ZN looks like it would have worked as well, at least for 2 ticks. Let's look at the video. One second. But it is interesting. It's interesting how the testing, you really can trust the testing. You know, look, it's really, I remember in the old days when I was first started doing this, it was really difficult to trust the system. I didn't know the system well enough to trust it. To put orders on a chart and wait a minute and a half sometimes, or a minute in the blind without news showing up anywhere, that takes a real strong leap of faith. So the testing, you know, it just shows you got to trust that the testing, it works. It's worthwhile. So this one took a while to trigger. It was more, I think it was more than 30 seconds. Would I have canceled after a minute? I might have today because of mixed volume. I might have. I mean, I'm being truthful. I was thinking about it. We were getting there. It was 10 seconds. It was 40 seconds. But then we got filled. So there was no cancel, even if I wanted to. And then there looks like a couple of ticks of slippage also, which is very normal for this report. And I don't want to forget everybody watching us on YouTube. Thank you for watching us out there. And hit the like button and catch us next time for next week's free stream of the week. So thank you, everybody on YouTube.